Yo guys, welcome to The Last Lap. Don't forget to drop a lovely, juicy 5-star rating if you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it.
I want to talk about driver pairings for next year. 2023.
Oh, God.
There's going to be, there's 10 teams,
Yep.
10 pairs. So let's do the bottom 5.
We're doing the bottom 5 this
What do we
week.
think the weakest 5 pairings? Now, we had a little chat beforehand, and we you know, to come up with our own bottom 5.
Yeah.
So we haven't compared notes. So it'd be interesting. I'm just going to keep my phone away from you.
Yeah.
I've got it all up here, mate.
You've got it all up there?
All stored, yeah.
Off the dome.
Reading on the train for 2 hours.
So shall we start with the 6th best? So the first worst. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
First worst. The
Does that make
best of the
sense?
worst.
Yeah.
The best of the worst.
So
yeah.
we're going from 6th to 10th. Okay.
Yeah.
The bottom 5.
I haven't done mine in order, by the way. I've just run.
You've not done it? Oh, so, okay.
He's going to have to do it on the fly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you guys done
you
the
guys
fly,
get
it's fine.
vibes only.
Do you want me to start with mine, actually? To
You start with yours, yeah.
I'll go with mine, yeah. So
P6.
the best of the worst, I'm going to go with Aston Martin. I think...
Alonso and Stroll.
Exactly, yeah. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. Fernando Alonso is almost, in a weird way, kind of a like-for-like replacement with Seb. I think Pat's driving a little bit better at this stage of his career, but, you know, I think it's just a question of motivation. Like, Fernando will be right up there if he's given the car with the likes of the McLarens and Alpines, but I still have a doubt about Lance Stroll. I don't think that team is very balanced in terms of, like, when you look at Alpine, like, this year, Ocon and Alonso were amazing. Like, they were really complimented in terms of the points that they scored. Maybe not, in terms of the chemistry, but I don't think Aston Martin's like that. I still think it's going to be mostly Fernando scoring the points. And when you look at what Lance Stroll, and we've had this debate so many times, I am not seeing development from this guy over the past 2-3 years. Like, he has been in Formula One since 2017. 2017. And I feel like he hasn't still developed. And even this year, USA Austin was a massive chance for him. That could have been an amazing weekend. He was best of the rest. He was in the podium after like the first lap, and he still makes a mistake in that one crucial and bins it into his future teammate.
Yeah.
And then I feel like that's the biggest problem, is that I'm not seeing this consistency from Lance. And if they do make a better car, they're going to be amongst the Alpines and the McLarens, and that is a cutthroat midfield. And that's why I feel like this kind of lineup, it's better than the next one I'm going to talk about, but I still don't think it's a great lineup. Like, if you with Lance Stroll there, I'm just not sure about him still.
I think with Stroll, he was a little bit closer to Vettel than I think we sometimes give him credit for.
Yeah.
During last season,
I don't think pace was a massive issue.
It is quite literally consistency. And,
He just does stupid things.
yeah, decision making.
Decision making,
Like-
not checking his mirrors.
Kota was actually mental. Like, what are you doing? And I think he knew it exactly at the moment. Like, oh shit, what have I done? That was so dumb. And Brazil as well. Like, was it the next Grand Prix?
Yeah,
or
it was.
two Grand Prix after?
He almost took his. Yeah, so
Almost take out Vettel. Like,
it was unreal.
And I was, are you not learning from like what?
Well, he
just
did the
took you
same
out of
thing in
Grand Prix?
Brazil 2021 to Sonoda. Like,
Yeah.
I remember there was Yuki sent it up the inside, and for me, Lance just turned in like he wasn't there.
Yeah.
That I understand more though. Again, but when it's your teammate, like, he properly squeezed like Vettel onto the
That's
grass.
what I mean. Like, I think that's
Okay.
Lance's biggest issue.
Yeah.
But I guess the question is, how much does Fernando, who's driving at these insane levels seemingly, and assuming he'll carry on, how much does he compensate for, I guess, Lance's misgivings? But also, does Lance improve a little bit next year?
I think Fernando could.
Will he
improve.
ever learn from his mistakes?
I was about to say Fernando could improve Lance, but he's just been teammates with Sebastian Vettel, hasn't he? And it's
Like-
not really changed.
Honestly, I think Lance is going to be like Alonso's bottle boy. Honestly, it's going to be. He's going to absolutely dominate him. Like,
He's-
whitewashing qualifying.
He is going to dominate him. I don't. Again, I think Lance does have like value at a mid-table team. The problem is that like where points are so much like gold dust in the midfield, it almost accentuates the thing that we've been talking about with Red Bull, and there being a gap between teammates even more to an extent, because being 2 tenths off is like fucking 9 places in the midfield.
Especially the further up. That's honestly, that's bang on. Like, the further up you get, it only gets harder. It doesn't get easier. When you're racing against the likes of like Sonoda and like, Latifi at the back, that's not the same as racing against like Lando or like, Gasly at the front and Alpines and McLarens. Like, it's only going to get harder. And does he have that extra gear to kind of finish best of the rest in some races?
Well, this is where
there have been points in his career and little spikes where I've been like, yo, no, this guy actually is pretty decent.
He was, pole sitter in 2020.
Turkey was, that
was a madness.
Weather typically, apart from Hungary last year, weather typically is pretty good as well. Again, this is the thing where points can be like, say for example, you finish, I don't know, there's 10 races and you finish P10 all 10 of those races, you get 10 points, and your teammate finishes P8, they get 40 points.
Yeah.
And you're like, does it really, like, that's where I think that, like with Bottas and Joe, it was a bit deceptive how big that gap was in terms of the actual differential. But what about you for P6?
My P6.
Do you agree, or you?
I'm actually probably going to go with Aston in a second. But first of all, my first of the worst. Oh shit, boy, that's good. That's bad. We've got Alpine.
Whoa.
Interesting. Interesting.
Not the reason of pace at all. I just want to clarify that and get that off my chest. It's not because Esteban Ocon and
He predicted
Pierre
Gasly to finish best of the rest, by the way, in 2022.
No,
I was wrong.
okay, fair enough.
We move.
We keep it moving. I think Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon are both sensational drivers. However, we spoke before about chemistry and dynamics between teammates, and they hate each other. And I'm still bitter about France
Allegedly
knocking us out of the World Cup. So
Yeah, true. French team with French drivers. Yeah, that's fair.
anyone can get it. Hold that.
I'll come back to that.
So why is that lineup bad? Just too French.
Too French.
Far too French.
Shouts out the pain au chocolat, massive. But
Listen, Otmar's got a challenge on his hands to control them too, because you know who was team principal at Force India when Perez and Ocon kept crashing into each other?
Yep.
What's
Otmar
that now?
Safnauer. Jinx, bad luck, 1, 2, 3. You can't talk anymore, huh?
Not ideal, not
anyway, yeah, exactly. No insight. No, look, I hear you. You know what I mean? Like,
It's not for pace. I think they'll qualifying pace, whatever. But I
Especially-
think you might get some incidents.
especially if Alpine are which they look most set to break into that top and get in podiums. The higher you get up the order, the more that I feel like teammates typically have to prove relative to each other. You know what I mean?
and can start to clash.
Yeah.
If they miss out on fourth in the Constructors' Championship because they keep crashing into each other.
I mean, the thing about those two is that, and I've seen Ocon, post a few like selfies with Gasly, both of them smiling. Yeah, we've squashed whatever beef we had, X amount of years ago. But when you're out on track and when it gets heated, the way I've described it is that even if they squash whatever beef they've had, that's still a trigger in the back of their minds. And when things do get heated, it's just going to get more toxic quicker than otherwise with a driver where they don't have any prior relationship. So I just don't. And the thing is, both of them have to perform. Like, Ocon was given that long-term contract. He's got to beat Gasly. Like, you can't be given a long-term contract and then be beaten by the guy straight away. And also, Gasly's going to think, like, I don't think we know how good Gasly is. Like, he's 2021, he was unbelievable in terms of like one lap pace. And again, it was Yuki kind of holding the team back. But then this year, he seemed a little bit less motivated, especially the end of the season didn't quite end very well. So even Gasly's got a point to prove. Like, how good is Pierre Gasly if you put him in the same car as a Carlos Sainz or an Ocon or a Lando? So both of those drivers have a lot to prove, and both of them are not going to want to finish behind their teammates. So how well are they going to work together as teammates before their kind of self-agenda kind of kicks in,
I'm also concerned about that. But I've not put them to P6 in my list.
Who's yours?
I've actually, and I've got it written down here, so I'm not just saying this but we're all going to have a different one. Yeah. I've actually said Hulkenberg Magnussen, P6.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. Which I think is probably higher than I think most people would maybe put them, but I think that you've got two very reliable, I would say, in terms of performance levels. I know K-Mag got a lot of meatball flags last year, but I mean, he was very unfortunate.
Kept binning it into like Lewis and Max on lap one.
And look, I think they're both examples of drivers who have had a lot of misfortune in their career, but in terms of their performance, and I think in terms of, what Haas need going forward, I think, I don't think they're anything special. I think they're going to change the world, but I think they're in a pretty good place. I wouldn't say they're particularly exciting drivers. I mean, Kevin just did 12 hours of Daytona with his dad as well, by the way. Finished P7. Shout out Kevin Magnussen. Well done.
And Jan.
And Daddy Jan.
Daddy Jan.
Love that.
I get with Haas in terms of like they've got like an experienced lineup that aren't going to bin it as often.
And I know Kevin told him to suck his balls.
Yeah.
But it's not that deep, is it really?
I think both of them have said
that'll
like
be fine.
it's not.
That was just funny.
Yeah.
I think they'll get along well. I think they'll.
Somebody's
they'll
put that on
be
a t-shirt, by the
decent.
way. Like that'll sell.
Haas merch, official Haas merch.
Haas merch,
actually.
yeah.
Goodness going to be all over that.
Balls everywhere.
Surviving to drive the book.
Have you seen he's got a book out?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
surviving
we've
to
talked
drive.
all about it.
Yeah, shocking.
All right, okay, right. Let's move P7 then.
Yeah.
So I am going to go with Haas. They're my kind of seventh place.
Anything more to add that I haven't already?
I think I still think that if they had car for car, I think that Fernando Alonso makes enough of a difference over the course of a race distance to kind of prop that driver lineup with Lance Stroll over Haas. I feel like Haas have a very solid driver lineup, exactly what they need. Like, not too much noise, maybe not the most exciting, but I still think that the Fernando Alonso effect is kind of better than Haas, but yeah, that's why I've got them over. But it's again, they're close to me. That's why I've got them 6th and 7th.
Okay. Well, I have gone Gasly Ocon.
You're not even going to let Niran say his?
No, I like that because you've gone them even lower than me. I thought everyone was going to have them
I'm
in the top
concerned. I think that the combination of me having faith that Alpine are gonna, as much as I said Aston Martin earlier, I definitely think Alpine. I would maybe even, if I had to bet today, I'd probably actually bet on Alpine more than I would McLaren for next year.
Really?
Honest, yeah.
Fair enough.
I think I would. But
And you think their driver lineup is that bad?
no, I just think that combination of that team looking to get podiums consistently, these two drivers who've been in the sport for a long time, with all their background on top of it, with Ocon's inability, like he races all or nothing, regardless of if they're your teammate or not.
Yeah.
I just think that combination, if I had to bet on it today, I think the teammate combination will let themselves down. And I think like Norris and Piastri will, for example, if they're close in the McLaren, even maybe Alonso Stroll, will outperform.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I do think that they're going to collide and they're going to clash at some point, the Alpine guys. But they're still quality drivers. They're still
doubt.
I don't see them like there's.
But so's Lando.
See,
I think Oscar will be. So's Fernando. So's all these these other drivers in the
they've still
midfield
got
are.
two quality. Don't get me wrong. Alpine fumbled the bag massively in 2022. There's no doubt about it. But they've still got two quality drivers.
And also, Ocon did get very much outperformed by Alonso this year.
But-
And Gasly did.
He brought it to him a bit more, but yeah, in terms of like,
Yeah, but Ocon was
obviously-
closer to Alonso in 21 than he was
yeah,
in 22.
yeah, fair enough,
100%.
But he was still there. Like the thing is, Ocon. Of course, Ocon got a little bit lucky, but that doesn't mean that he didn't do a good job. Like he was super close to Fernando Alonso. He was always there, kind of in the points. I don't think he had like spectacular races, but that's why I think. And Pierre Gasly, how motivated is he going to be? I just think that. Even though I do think there's going to be a bit of toxicity, I think the quality of those two drivers I think it props them up over lineups like the Haas driver lineup and even the Aston Martin driver lineup, just because there's just too much quality, even if I do think there's going to be a bit of toxicity.
And I think if there's any environment where two drivers could really fall out even further, it's probably Alpine. There seems to be toxicity there anyway.
And Otmar, like you said, he's not very good at handling it.
This is what I mean.
Drama.
These are all coming into my thoughts.
My
What about you?
seventh. I don't even have a huge amount to say about this, but I feel like they're a little bit underrated. Alfa Romeo's driver lineup. Valtteri Bottas experienced if you looked at the start of last year, I think if you gave them a car that didn't blow up all the time and actually was slightly developed, I think you'd have seen a lot more from Alfa Romeo this season. I think we've kind of just forgotten about them because of recency bias, and they just kind of dropped off. Guan Yu Zhou got points in his first race, had a lot of other opportunities to score points, but then car blew up.
And also,
Bottas looked really good at the start of the season. So
Zhou didn't even like crash. Like if you compare, say, I know a lot of people said obviously like forget 2021 in terms of that being mixed, like, you know, rookie season. Like even if you compare Mick to Zhou in like, you know, 2022, sure, Mick was a little bit quicker because he has that, you know, he does have that knowledge having not been a rookie, but Zhou did not crash pretty much at all, basically. Like except for maybe a little scrape with Gasly.
Zhou and Sonoda. I think
Exactly.
Similar comparison.
yeah.
Exactly. So I
Zhou's
think
not very Zhou doesn't make mistakes.
he's got a really good. I feel like he's got a really good base. Like he doesn't crash a lot. He was quite fairly consistent. He was a lot closer to Bottas in qualifying. He just needs the car and that little bit more experience now, knowing all of the tracks. And I think he could be a solid driver, I think. And I think he proved a lot of people wrong because when he did get announced, I do remember there was a lot of people going,
I had that.
almost Mazepin 2.0. There was a lot of like, oh, just pay driver. You know, he wasn't even that good in Formula 2. But yeah, I think he's actually proven a lot of people wrong. I'm not saying he's amazing. I'm not saying he's a world champion, but I think he has the ability to be a fairly decent midfield driver.
Yeah.
So give him the car, Alfa Romeo.
Do it.
Right, what about your number 8, Aldas?
You just said it. My number 8 is also Alfa Romeo. So I've gone Aston Martin, then I've gone Haas, and then I've gone Alfa Romeo with Zhou and Bottas.
And so have I, by the way.
Pretty
You
cool.
got Alfa Romeo P8?
I've gone
Copied
Alfa Romeo P8.
No, I
Anything
agree
more
with
to add?
everything. I think Bottas, again, I think Alfa just really suited him because in Mercedes there was a lot of pressure. He was never he had some good seasons. I think 2019 was a good Mercedes season, but we saw in 2021, he was nowhere near the championship fight. At Alfa Romeo, much less pressure. His own team as well, and kind of a better environment for him, kind of less of the media and stuff. And he really excelled at the beginning of the season. Like we saw, I think he qualified like 5th in Miami or something, and he was a really good point scorer. And just give him a good car, and I think that could be a really good, driver lineup. But
I've got one question around Valtteri, right? So he jumped into the Alfa Romeo first year, started the season well, and obviously he's coming into this team from Mercedes, having had he's never driven a Ferrari-powered car before, I think. He's coming in, and the car that he was given was good at the start of the year. And as the season went on, the car seemed to get progressively just worse, less consistent, which we saw that with various different teams, and it's all relative. Obviously, Aston Martin improved a lot, which I think played a big part in it. But I do wonder if Valtteri, has he shown me now he's that guy to really spearhead that team long term going forward? I don't think, we saw a really capable Valtteri at the start of the year, but it does worry me a little bit that he wasn't able to help that team stay somewhat competitive for the remainder of the year.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a question.
Do you think maybe like, although the car did get worse, maybe we're over-egging it a little bit? Like, do you think he kind of cost the team a little bit? I mean, they did finish ahead of Aston Martin by like 1 point in the constructors.
And Joe did really catch up as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that. I suppose next year is going to be the big kind of tester for him. He's beaten kind of his rookie teammate, as he should have. He's got to continue that. He's got to continue to be the team leader.
This is why I put
maybe he's even like a driver that's like a tiny bit under pressure. I'm just kind of like, what are his team leading capacities? Like how good is he at doing that in a midfield team?
Also,
my P8 has to be different. I've gone for Haas here.
Oh, wow.
In my mind.
Interesting.
So a little bit lower than you guys.
Not backing it. Not backing it.
I honestly, cool experience. And I rate K-Mag, I do. I think he's had a great season coming back in out of just fucking nowhere, just not even having the seat, and then just coming in, grabbing a pole. He's had some other good races like Spain, where he should have been higher up, and then obviously the incident on lap 1, whatever. He's just got to iron those out, I guess. Or he's just been unlucky as well with the M-Fence situation. I just don't think Nico Hülkenberg is going to come in and be that competitive, lads. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I know he's been a solid midfield driver.
Maybe.
But he's had, 2 full years out?
Mm-hmm. With the odd appearance.
With the odd appearance here and there, where he has come in and looked relatively decent.
He did 2 races at the start of...
He qualified Lance in Bahrain.
Yeah, that was pretty
he did.
After not driving the car until Friday.
That was
I hear it. I just don't know whether across like a whole season. Like I feel like
I think that says more about Lance, by the way. But
yeah, it is. Maybe, you're right. I think if you come in and do like a one-off race, we've seen it with Nick De Vries. Sometimes you can like really come in and just like be outstanding because like there's no pressure on you. Everyone goes, whatever you do, you've done well.
Everything's a bonus.
Everything's a bonus. But I think across an entire season, I just don't know if you'd actually really see the same Nico Hülkenberg of like 20,
that's the thing.
15, whatever.
That's what Haas are banking on. They're banking on they're going to get the consistent Hulk, who was like best of the rest 2018.
He'll still be consistent. I just don't know, man.
It's hard to get too excited.
Lineup,
yeah.
You know?
It's a very mid driver lineup, but it almost feels like that's kind of what Haas need.
Yeah.
They need 2 mid drivers that are actually consistent.
If that was the drivers lineup in 2016 or something, or 2015, I'd be like, fuck.
That's the thing. You feel like those two have reached their ceiling.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine them
and come back down the stairs.
Yeah, like there's only one way now. Yeah. It feels like they're only going to either stay at the level or get a little bit worse. But, all right, P9.
So I've only got 2 left. I am next going to go with AlphaTauri. Yuki Tsunoda, my guy Yuki, and also obviously Nick De Vries as well. By the way, what a strange like driver lineup for some reason, in my opinion. Like Yuki now the team leader, Nick De Vries 6 months ago. By the way, he was just some Formula E driver that no one even knew. He was just the guy that was like jumping in. I'm not.
Nick.
That is honestly like before he actually did like, before Monza. I swear to God, like no one, all they knew about him is that he was like jumping in the cars left, right, and now he's kind of like this big kind of Red Bull. Like they kind of pinched him a little bit from like the likes of Alpine and Williams. And, potentially Marco kind of might want him in the Red Bull and stuff like that. So what a strange driver lineup, but I'm really looking forward to this one. I still think that I'm not quite sure about Yuki. And obviously we don't know what Nick De Vries is going to be like in the AlphaTauri. And also the team didn't produce a great car. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to bounce back next year and produce a better one. So there's also a little doubt about that. And I just think not a lot of experience, not a lot of... also a bit of star factor as well. I want to see Yuki kick on, but I just think I have so many doubts about that team, that driver lineup, but hopefully I'm wrong.
A lot of questions.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Yuki loses out to Nick De Vries as well.
It's happening. It's written in the stars. I'm sorry. I love you, Yuki, but it's probably going to happen. I'm so torn on 9th and 10th, which I really shouldn't be because it's literally just 9th and 10th. I think I'm going to go with AlphaTauri as well. Because we all know who the 10th team's going to be. But I think I'm going to go with AlphaTauri because I think out of the 2 drivers coming in, one for Williams and one for AlphaTauri, I think Nick De Vries is stronger. He has more pedigree. Mm-hmm. He's already shown, like in an F1 car, that he can do the business of like one Grand Prix. And again, F2 champion, Formula E champion, all this jazz, whatever. Yuki does worry me. But I think Nick De Vries has enough to make it at least like a semi-decent partnership. But I think this will be the end of Yuki. I think Nick De Vries wins.
I mean, Nick
battle, just about.
Just to kind of like put into perspective, like Nick De Vries he's not even a young driver anymore. Like he is a seasoned veteran. He had multiple seasons in Formula 2, won the title. He's had multiple seasons in Formula E, won the title.
Like
and even this year, like I'm pretty sure Nick De Vries has driven more 2022 F1 cars than any other person on the planet. I don't think there's anyone else who's driven more.
It's like tapas.
You can't get
a little bit of everything.
Exactly. You know? And does I remember what is it in Brazil when Lando had I think a few too many or had food poisoning. He almost got into the McLaren as well for Brazil. So he is honestly like in the modern era with the lack of testing, he is the most experienced rookie you could possibly have.
He's a renaissance man.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
And so that's why I think he might probably beat Yuki Tsunoda. But I still don't think that as a combination is maybe better than say the Haas, for example.
Yeah, he's not the conventional rookie. No, what do you reckon I'm gonna say?
Yeah, you're gonna go with
Albon Sargent.
Yeah. To back the boys.
Biased, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so let me lay out my argument. Okay.
Wrong. Cool.
So Albon, great year, 22. I think we can all agree clear of Tsunoda.
Yeah, no, agree
comfortably, and clear of De Vries. Yes, he's done well in certain. I mean, De Vries was behind Albon in F2 when Alex graduated. Yeah,
I mean, that was many moons ago now, mate.
Okay, I'm just laying out the full kind of context. Look, I just think that Albon's bringing some, he's got really good momentum going into his second year at Williams. He's got a point to prove to himself in terms of whether Williams will be that team for him to take him forward, or he needs to put himself in the shop window. So I think he's going to be super motivated to drive the nuts off whatever car they give him. All the tits, either or.
Both.
Take your pick. Yeah, exactly, why not? Logan Sargent. Now, look, obviously, in Formula 3, when Oscar won, Logan pushed Piastri right to the end. Difficulty with budget, stayed in Formula 3, weaker team. In Formula 2, Rookie of the Year, the way he finished Abu Dhabi with all that pressure and expectation that Josko Pito put on him, I thought was pretty impressive. I think, they've had a lot of testing with him, with Logan. I've been backing Logan this year in F2, so this is heavily biased take. I'm more than happy. I don't need to say this. You know this. You're fully aware. But I do think there is certainly an argument that, I think Albon and Sargent is a driver pairing I'm more confident in. I think there's more questions for me around both Tsunoda and De Vries. There's a lot of questions around both. Is it
almost like risk versus reward? Maybe you could say that's more risky lineup, but
there's questions around Sargent, but I think Alex, I feel like we know where he's at. I think he's been pretty solid. Very, very few shunts in 2022. He got a lot of that experience in Red Bull. As tough as it was for him, I think he's now a better driver for it.
Yeah.
So I think as a package, I've got more confidence in Albon Sargent.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm a young, impressionable mind. You've convinced me.
Oh, he's done it.
Are you joking?
I'm leaving the
career in politics.
You're ganging up on me now.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
It was the Sargent. I forgot that he challenged Piastri in F2. I was like, he's actually a baller.
I just feel like,
Listen, let me say straight.
There's less variables.
First of all, okay, I get the Formula 3 thing, and that was very impressive. That was in 2020, many moons ago. So I think you've got to look at what's happened over the past two or so years. I still think Sargent, he had a very good rookie season in Formula 2, but it wasn't anything extraordinary. And when you look at the field, it wasn't the fact that there was even a question of him kind of. What I found funny is that some people were saying, he's going to hang, is he going to get the super license points? If he didn't, I don't think he would have deserved to be in Formula 1. So he kind of got, he hanged on to it, which is fair enough. And I do want to see him do well. But
it was an all right F2 grid.
Yeah,
it wasn't crazily strong.
Exactly. So I feel like he still has a lot of questions in terms of how is he going to.
Yeah, I agree.
How is he going to react when he gets to Formula 1?
Yeah, I hear that.
Obviously, with Alex, I think he's had a really good season. I'm looking forward to seeing him in a better car as well. But I still think, I don't think there's I think just the combination of De Vries, who I think is going to be very, very solid, and also I think Yuki Tsunoda's got to be a little bit better than hopefully Logan Sargent. So that's why I've got them over. But I just feel like with Williams as well, and the one thing you forget, I still think that there's a big question on Williams than any other team as well. So what kind of car are they going to give someone like Logan Sargent? Are they going to give him a terrible car? And when you have to learn in a really bad car, it just makes that development even harder. It makes it's more difficult to kind of start running a lot faster. So that's, I think, that's why it just brings that lineup down. Not only the experience, but also the fact that I don't think Williams is kind of the best team for rookie drivers where they are now.
It's fair.
There's a better support. There's a better support system at AlphaTauri, and that's why they're going to have a better driver lineup.
So what's your final 6 to 10?
So mine is oh god, you've put me on spot. Right. So mine's Hulkenberg, Magnussen P6,
Yeah, so Haas.
Gasly Ocon P7, Bottas Joe P8, Albon Sargent P9, and Tsunoda De Vries P10.
All right, sensational. Mine was Alpine in P6 because of the World
Vibes.
Cup. Vibe. In P7, I believe I put Alfa Romeo. In P8 was Haas. 9, I switched it at the end, so Williams, and then 10, AlphaTauri. Aldas?
Unbelievable. I had Aston Martin, then I had Haas, then I had Alfa Romeo, then I had AlphaTauri, and then I had Williams in last.
Just had to really.
And I had conviction with my choices, but I didn't jump at the end.
I didn't even order mine. I didn't even know we were ordering them.
Political persuasion here.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
We'll do our top 5 in the next pod.
Yes, exactly.